My name is Foster Chwanda. I'm a pastor of the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Malawi. And I would like to continue with our discussion of biblical predictive prophecy. We looked at God as the source of predictive prophecy, and we found that predictive prophecy can do a lot of things, such as even contribute to the salvation of human beings. And also, it is very creative. It can create a people. Predictive prophecy can create a people who believe in God, a people who trust God. But today we want to start another series from Daniel chapter 2. I have entitled it, Daniel chapter 2, the ABC of biblical predictive prophecy. Daniel chapter 2, the ABC of biblical predictive prophecy. I am trying to say that the very foundation of predictive prophecy in the Bible, in the Old Testament, is the book of Daniel. And also it resonates with the book of Revelation in the New Testament, but we are focusing on chapter 2 of the Old Testament book of Daniel, the ABC of biblical predictive prophecy. It was in the year 606 or 605 BC when Jews were captured as slaves in Jerusalem and the surrounding areas, and they were deported to Babylon. They were taken to the kingdom of Babylon as slaves. And out there, quite a number of Jewish young people, were enrolled into the University of Babylon to study the language and the books, the letters of Babylon. So Daniel and his friends were in that school from around 605, 606, 605 BC, 606, 605 BC, up until 604, 603 BC. And Daniel there, with his three friends, graduated with very colorful qualifications, probably distinctions in several disciplines of study. But Daniel himself had the privilege of being gifted by God in understanding dreams and interpreting them. So by the time Daniel qualified for the wisdom in Babylon, he was also qualified by God to be a prophet of God, to understand dreams and also their interpretations. And you know, dreaming and interpreting dreams in Babylon was also a popular discipline, a popular culture. It was something that people were used to. And Daniel seemed to be well versed in coming up with meaningful meanings, meaningful interpretations or true interpretations of various dreams that the authorities in that particular kingdom dreamt. So, we are told that in 604 or 603 BC, just after his graduation from school, King Nebuchadnezzar himself had a dream which he forgot. In Daniel chapter 2, we read of this particular story. Let's turn there and read Daniel chapter 2. Daniel chapter 2, verse 1. In the second year of the rule of Nebuchadnezzar had dreams, and his spirit was troubled, and his sleep went from him. So here we see King Nebuchadnezzar has dreamt, and he is troubled, he's frustrated, the dream has escaped from him, and his sleep is gone. He's trying to remember the dream, but he can't, and he's trying to understand what could that dream have been about. What was it supposed to be meant to tell me? So he's disturbed there. In verse 2 we read, Then the king gave orders to call in the magicians, the conjurers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before the king. Fortunately for him, there were wise men in his kingdom. There were magicians there. There were those who spoke with the dead. There were those who were wise, who were scientists. They had to learn things about the stars and the heavenly bodies and be able to come up with the interpretations of dreams. So he called all of them to come, according to what we are reading in Daniel 2, verse 2. Then the king gave orders to all to call the magicians, to call in the magicians, the conjurers, the sorcerers, and the Chaldeans to tell the king his dreams. So they came in and stood before him. Here we see they have come, they are before him. Daniel chapter 2, verse 3 reads, "And the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream." Here the king is simply saying, I have forgotten the dream which I saw, and I want you to help me to remember that dream. Can you remind me what dream I dreamt? Daniel chapter 2, verse 3. And the king said to them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Verse 4. Verse 4. Now, the king has spoken. He has told them why he called them into his palace. And we are reading in Daniel chapter 2, verse 4. Then the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Aramaic. O king, live forever. Tell the dream to your servants, and we will declare the interpretation. Here, the wise men want King Nebuchadnezzar to tell them the dream so that they can interpret it. That seems quite intelligent. It is natural. When somebody has a dream, they must relate their dream. And then after they have related their dream, then the one who knows how to interpret dreams should interpret. So these particular people are saying, yes, we know how to interpret dreams, but now, king, there's something missing here. You needed to tell us that dream. So for us to understand what is happening, let's go back to verse 3. And the king said to them, when they arrived, the king said, I've come, you have come. Now I want to introduce to you my problem, my issue, my challenge, why I have called you. So the king did not mince his words. He came straight to the point and he told them, I had a dream, and my spirit is troubled to know the dream. Here, it simply means the king had forgotten the dream. He says, I've forgotten the dream. I want you to help me remember my dream. Verse 4, then the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Aramaic. Probably that was an intellectual language, the language that the king could understand properly. So they are saying, O king, live forever. Tell the dream to your servants, and we will declare the interpretation. Hey, the king is listening to something very, very strange. I've told them, I've forgotten the dream. Now they are demanding I produce the dream. Where will I get it from? Let's see how the king is going to respond to that in verse 4. I'm sorry, we were in verse 4, where the Chaldeans spoke to the king in Aramaic. O king, live forever. Tell the dream to your servants, and we will interpret the dream. But now in verse 5. Verse 5. The king replied to the astrologers. He's now responding to what they have just said. What did he say? Let's read on. Daniel chapter 2, verse 5. The king replied to the astrologers, this is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. Wow. Something is happening here. The scientists, the astrologers, the Chaldeans, the magicians, the sorcerers, those who consulted the dead, the spiritists, now are saying, hey, tell us the dream and we will interpret it. Now the king is saying, as I was inviting you to come, I had already made a decision that if they are unable to tell me my dream, if they cannot remind me the dream, then give me its interpretation, then I will have them cut into pieces. I've already made the decision. That's what he is saying. Daniel chapter 2, verse 5. The king replied to the astrologers, "This is what I have firmly decided. If you do not tell me what my dream was and interpret it, I will have you cut into pieces and your houses turned into piles of rubble. I will destroy your homes. I will destroy your families. I will cut to pieces yourselves and your wives and your children, whoever is related to your home. I will destroy your home totally, because you are supposed to give me my dream, which I've forgotten, and also give me its interpretation." That's how the king is putting it. Verse 6. The king continues to talk to the wise men. He says, "But if you tell me what I dreamt and what the dream means, I'll give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means. Just that. Give me my dream, which I've forgotten, and give me what it means." The king is insistent. He is demanding two things only. He wants his dream, the dream he has forgotten, and then he wants its interpretation. Because these people were claiming that they interpreted dreams. In fact, it appears that the king had an experience with them. He had given them dreams and they had interpreted the dreams. But this time is different, because the king has forgotten the dream and he wants the dream before he gets the interpretation. And this is going to be an acid test, sort of something that is going to verify, something that is going to authenticate their claim to know how to interpret dreams. First, tell me the dream I have forgotten, and then give me its interpretation. And then you will be honored, you will be given wonderful gifts, trophies, kind of things, wonderful honors. I'll honor you a lot. I will promote you and give you positions and so on. So the king says, but if you tell me what I dreamed and what the dream means, I'll give you many wonderful gifts and honors. Just tell me the dream and what it means. Otherwise, from verse 5, he says, I've already decided that if you do not reveal the dream to me, that if you do not tell me what I've dreamt, if you just come up with manufactured interpretations without giving me the very dream I did dream and forgot, then I'm going to cut you into pieces. And I'm going to destroy your homes. And I'm going to turn your homes into rubble. I'm going to cut you into pieces together with your families. Hey, it's becoming very difficult now for the wise men. All of them, I can imagine them sweating with their eyes bulging, looking at each other. What are we going to do? The king wants to kill us. Who is going to tell us that dream? Is there anyone among us who is better than all of us, who understands, who knows, who can bring to the king his dream, his forgotten dream, and maybe after that we can interpret it? They search amongst themselves whether there was such an ability, whether there was such an expertise, whether there was such a competence amongst them. Now we continue to read verse 7. Daniel chapter 2, verse 7. Once more they replied, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it. Once more they replied, let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it. Wow. As the king insists that he wants the dream and its interpretation, they also insist that the king tells them the dream and then they will interpret it. Wise men insist that King Nebuchadnezzar still remembers his forgotten dream before they can interpret it. Once more, they replied, "Let the king tell his servants the dream, and we will interpret it." Verse 8, Daniel chapter 2, verse 8. The king answered and said, "I know of certainty that ye would gain the time, because you see the thing is gone from me." Now I can see, now I can understand that you are trying to gain the time. You are trying to buy time. You are elongating the time. We are sitting here arguing about, give me the dream. No, give us the dream. I want my dream. I've forgotten it. Now you're telling me to give you the dream when I have already forgotten it. Are you buying time? Are you wasting my time? Do you take advantage of the thing having gone out of me that I've forgotten it? What is it? What are you trying to say? Here, King Nebuchadnezzar has stretched his patience too far. He now knows that the wise men are failing. They are literally failing to come up with the dream that which he had forgotten. They are, in other words, telling him that we can't tell you what you dreamt because we did not dream with you. We were not there when you were dreaming. We did not participate in the dream. How can we come up with a dream that took place in your own mind? You dreamt alone in your own sleeping, and then you want us to bring that dream. We can't afford that. That's an impossibility. That's what they are trying to say to him. And in verse 9, King Nebuchadnezzar has something to reiterate to them. Daniel chapter 2, verse 9. If you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. If you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. But tell me the dream, and then I will know that you can tell me what it means. King Nebuchadnezzar has come straight to the wise men to tell them that, look, you appear to be liars. You appear to be claiming to know, but you don't know. You appear to be experts of dreams and interpretations, but you are not. Now you are trying to connive, to conspire. You are trying to agree to tell me lies. Daniel chapter 2, verse 9. If you don't tell me the dream, you are doomed. So you have conspired to tell me lies, hoping I will change my mind. You think if you tell me lies, I will change my mind? If you give me a false dream and false interpretations, you think I will change my mind? But tell me the dream. What I want is the dream which I've forgotten. Tell me the dream, and then I will know that you can tell me what it means. Give me my dream, and I will know that you will tell me its interpretation. Hey, what a demand. What a challenge to the wise men. Verse 10. Verse 10. Remember, before we read verse 10, the king has only demanded two things from the wise men. The dream, which he had forgotten. Number two, the meaning of it. The meaning of it. And he has told them clearly that if you give me the dream first, and then tell me its interpretation, then I'll trust you, then I'll believe you. But if you fail to give me the dream, and if you fail to give me its interpretation, or even if you fail to give me the dream and you can't tell me the interpretation, then I will know that you have been liars all this time. And I'll cut you into pieces. I'll destroy you together with your families. So what are the astrologers going to say? Daniel chapter 2, verse 10. We are reading Daniel chapter 2, verse 10. The astrologers answered the king, "There is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer." Here, there is an open confession of the wise men. They are openly confessing to the king that no one upon this earth can ask the way you are asking, king. No one can ask for a forgotten dream. No one can ask to be reminded his own forgotten dream. A dream he dreamt alone, a dream he forgot alone. Now he calls other people to remind him or to tell him that dream. Tell me the dream I forgot. No one can say that. In other words, they are saying it is sort of mad, crazy, probably inhuman for someone to ask for something that he has dreamt on his own and forgotten on his own, and ask others to give him the dream and interpret it. This thing has never happened. No one has ever asked such a thing. So they say, the astrologers answered the king. We are reading Daniel chapter 2 verse 10. The astrologers answered the king, there is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. We have never met this experience, king. It's the first of its kind. You are the first person to ask such a thing, to ask us to remind you a dream that you forgot by yourself. We can't do that. We can't afford it. We can't afford that. It's an impossibility. You are asking for an impossibility. And we are surprised that you yourself, king, with all your wisdom, you can ask us for an impossibility. How do you expect us to produce a dream that you dreamt alone and forgot alone? How do you expect us to produce that dream? And how do you expect us to interpret what we don't know? Oh, king, this is an impossibility. So the astrologers continue to anger the king. They are infuriating him. They are making him more and more angry. They are inciting his indignation against them when they say, there is not a man on earth who can do what the king asks. No king, however great and mighty, has ever asked such a thing of any magician or enchanter or astrologer. So there are two impossibilities here. Number one, no one can remind somebody of his forgotten dream. No one can remind you a forgotten dream. Number two, no one can ask to be reminded a forgotten dream. So it's like King Nebuchadnezzar is asking an impossibility for an impossibility, and also he is asking people who cannot do anything about it. So they are actually admitting that it's impossible for them to produce the dream of the king or even its interpretation. And the wise men have something more to tell him about this impossible situation. Wise men tell King Nebuchadnezzar, it's impossible for anyone on earth to reveal a forgotten dream to another person who forgot on their own. Daniel chapter 2 verse 11. And it is a rare thing. Let me read it properly. Daniel chapter 2 verse 11. And it is a rare thing that the king requires. And there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. If we were reading a modern Bible, a modern English Bible, it would read, it is a rare thing that you demand or that you require, king, and there is no one that can show it before the king except the gods who reside or who live where there are no human beings. So the wise men here are pointing the king to somebody else who lives somewhere, not on earth, who lives where there are no human beings. He's saying among human beings, there is no one who can do what the king wants. Among human beings, there is no one who can ask for a forgotten dream, which he or she has already forgotten. There's no one who can ask for that. And among human beings, there is also no one who can produce a dream that has been forgotten. No one can help somebody who forgot their own dream to remember that dream. No one can do that. So the wise men are saying it is a rare thing that the king requires. And there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. Whose dwelling is not with flesh. wise men are pointing King Nebuchadnezzar to the living God of heaven as the only one who can reveal a forgotten dream. Reading Daniel 2 verse 11, and it is a rare thing that the king requires, and there is none other that can show it before the king except the gods whose dwelling is not with flesh. Then the king orders that all wise men must be killed. Then chapter 2 verse 12. For this reason, the king was angry and very furious and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. Now the king wants everyone who claimed to be wise or who was educated in the wisdom of interpreting dreams to be destroyed. For this reason, then chapter 2 verse 12, the king was angry and very furious and gave the command to destroy all the wise men of Babylon. Verse 13. So the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men. In other texts, they say they began looking for the wise men to kill them, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. They also wanted Daniel and his friends to die because they too were among the wise. Verse 14. Then with counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. Verse 15, Daniel's answer to the executioner, to the one who was executing the command. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree from the king so urgent? Then Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. Verse 16. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time that he might tell the king the interpretation. Where we have reached is at a point when the decree to destroy wise men of Babylon has gone out, and the soldiers are going around to gather the people and destroy them, kill them together with their families. But then as they come to Daniel, Daniel says, the king has hastened. He is too quick to give that order. Can you allow me to meet the king so that I can ask for time? Maybe we can do something about his forgotten dream. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time that he might tell the king the interpretation. That's where we are going to end this time. Now, permit me to summarize the drama of Daniel chapter 2, verse 1 to 11. The summary will go like this. King Nebuchadnezzar has dreamt and forgotten his dream. The king calls wise men of his kingdom to come and remind him his dream and interpret it. The wise men admit their failure. They admit that they can't afford. They call the demand of the king unintelligible, unexpected, and an impossibility. Then the king gets angry and orders that all wise men must be destroyed. They must die. Daniel is told that he too must die. But he intervenes and asks the king not to kill the people until Daniel comes later with the king's forgotten dream and with its interpretation. So everyone is going to wait for Daniel to produce the forgotten dream, and for Daniel to come up with its interpretation. I have a number of questions to ask, and I'll be asking and answering. The idea is that these questions I ask can be used to discuss this lesson, and the answers which I give are probably just suggestive, my attempt to answer. You can also give your own answers. Question number 1. Why did the king forget his dream? Why did the king forget his dream? Remember, we are dealing with Daniel chapter 2 in the Bible. So the Bible is God's word. It is God's truth. So we want to answer a few questions in that line. Why did the king forget his dream? My answer to that is, God gave the king the dream, and caused him to forget it deliberately. God gave the king the dream and caused him to forget it deliberately so as to reveal himself. God wanted to reveal himself to King Nebuchadnezzar later in the process. The entire dream was a revelation that God brought to King Nebuchadnezzar, and he makes him dream. He vividly dreams it, and then he forgets it completely, and seeks its details and also its interpretation. It's God who came up with that dream and also caused King Nebuchadnezzar to forget it. Number 2, why did the king ask the wise men to remind him his dream? Why did the king ask the wise men to remind him his dream? The answer is that the king trusted them. The king trusted the wise men on the dreams. He believed that they were experts. They knew how to understand dreams and interpret them, so he believed they could also remind him the dream and also give him his interpretation. So he had all his trust on the wise men. Question number 3, why did the king forget consulting Daniel in this matter? Why did the king forget Daniel in this matter? Because it looks like Daniel is found at the end. When everybody who was wise must be killed, that's when Daniel features. Daniel did not go to the palace of the king to answer with the rest, but Daniel is found later on, as the people must be killed. Then Daniel is found also to be killed with them. So why did the king forget consulting Daniel in this matter? The answer, God deliberately made the king forget Daniel, God's servant. God made the king forget Daniel, God's servant. It was God who hid Daniel from the scene at the king's palace. Daniel was the one God was going to use to bring the dream and the interpretation. So God decided that Daniel should not appear at that time, so that they should look for how to come up with the answer to the problem. Number 4, why did the wise men fail to remind the king his dream? Why did the wise men fail to remind the king his dream? The answer to number 4 is that the dream had been forgotten. The one who forgot the dream was a human being, the king. And so the ones who were being asked to remind the king the dream were also human beings. So it was humanly impossible to remind someone his dreams. Even today, if you dream and forget in your bed, you dream a dream and then you forget it, you can as well forget it, because no one is going to remind you. It's you who must remember it. So in this case, the forgetting of the dream was there because the wise men failed to remind the king his dream, because it was an impossibility. It was an impossibility for the wise men to do that. So all impossibilities are God's possibilities. All impossibilities are God's possibilities. But they are human impossibilities. So human impossibilities are God's possibilities. In this case, reminding somebody of his dream is a human impossibility, but it became God's possibility. Question number 5. Why did the king's order to kill wise men include Daniel? Why did the king's order to kill wise men include Daniel? Yes, Daniel was just as worth death as the rest of the wise men. He was the same as the other wise men. He too had been known, together with his 3 friends, they had been known to be all wise. They were even wiser than the other, 10 times wiser than the other people in Babylon. So they were in the same category, and they had to die with everybody else. Question number 6. Why did the wise men point to gods not found on earth? Why did they say, if there is any God that can remind you the dream king, that God must not be among human beings. It must be another God who doesn't live among human beings. Why did they say that statement? This is because the gods that they trusted amongst themselves, the local gods in Babylon, had thereby failed already in this case, because they were consulting their gods They were praying to their gods. You remember that they were supposed to be dying. They were supposed to die. So they did everything possible. They consulted each and every god they knew of. And they discovered that all the gods they called had no answers. So the gods of Babylon were disqualified for revealing this particular forgotten dream, for this human impossibility. The gods were just as useless as the human beings that failed to tell the king. So, number two, to the same question, why did the wise men point to gods? It's because the Holy Spirit wanted the wise men to show and understand that there is a God who is different from their local idols, from their usual idols, from all the gods that they knew. He's totally different. And he wanted them to point the king to that person who would be different. Then the last question, why did Daniel promise the king an answer later? Why did Daniel promise the king an answer later? Daniel trusted that his God, the creator God of heaven, would provide him with a dream that the king had forgotten and its interpretation in answer to prayer. So Daniel trusted that if he speaks to God, asks God to give him the dream and its interpretation, Daniel believed that God would provide the dream in detail as the king had dreamt it and forgotten it, and also give him the interpretation of that dream. So Daniel trusted God. Those are my answers to the questions. You can also provide your own answers. May the great God bless you as you contemplate upon this ABC of predictive prophecy in the Bible, based on Daniel chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. May the Lord bless you.